Strangely, we're supposed to not talk about religion and politics, and yet we all do. You just got to turn the news on to realize that it's on all the time. But we don't even say don't speak about death. We just don't do it because it feels a little bit, I don't know, we might offend someone, we might upset somebody. It's one of those icky subjects, and I want to bring that icky subject out into the light and make it okay to talk about, because when we recognize we've got a limited time on the planet, and most of us don't know how much time that is, it gives us that inkling to, you know what, I'd better get on with it. I'd better do whatever it is that I'm supposed to do that I keep putting off. Well, you can't keep putting it off. At some stage, I want people to make that decision of, this is what I really want. This is how I see me getting the most out of life. This is where I see me being able to contribute mostly towards life, community, other people, family, whatever it may be.
G'day, welcome to Realms of Power. Today I've got Anthony Spark joining us. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.
Mate, it's great you're on board, and you've recently self-published a book, which we'll go to soon. But for our listeners, Realms of Power, we're really trying to help people turn their power on in their life. And I think what you're going to talk about today is a brilliant topic, especially in relationship to your book. So would you like to just introduce yourself of what it is you're doing now in your business realm?
Absolutely. Anthony Spark, I own and operate Sunshine Coast Funerals, which was born about 12 months ago. I've been a celebrant for a while, and I just felt like some people are looking for something a little bit different in their end of life plan. So if you're a church going, chapel going person who loves that space and loves being involved in that, then that's the right place for you to have your farewell service. If that's not you, if you are someone who loves the beach or the park or the hinterland or your local surf club, that's the place for you to have your farewell service. So I created a business to try and cater for that section of the market.
Mm. It's something people struggle sometimes with, especially if there's something unexpected that's come up for people. And the title of your book really says it all. So, how about we start with the title of your book and your subheading, because I think that so relates to the realms of power.
Yeah, I think it does. I think there's certainly some synergy there. We don't talk about death. It's one of those taboo subjects that it's almost as if through speaking about it, it might happen to you. I've got news for you, Tony. It's going to happen to all of us, and it's sad. It's supposed to be, because a life well lived means you've impacted other people, and they're going to miss you terribly when you're gone. So there's that dichotomy of, we really should speak about death because it's part of life, but we don't want to talk about death because it's a taboo subject. It's strangely, we're supposed to not talk about religion and politics, and yet we all do. You just got to turn the news on to realize that it's on all the time. But we don't even say don't speak about death. We just don't do it because it feels a little bit, I don't know, we might offend someone, we might upset somebody. It's one of those icky subjects, and I want to bring that icky subject out into the light and make it okay to talk about, because when we recognize we've got a limited time on the planet, and most of us don't know how much time that is, it gives us that inkling to, you know what, I'd better get on with it. I'd better do whatever it is that I'm supposed to do that I keep putting off. Well, you can't keep putting it off. At some stage, I want people to make that decision of, this is what I really want. This is how I see me getting the most out of life. This is where I see me being able to contribute mostly towards life, community, other people, family, whatever it may be.
Mm. And look, a lot of people, when they do go to a funeral service and either celebrate or grieve the loss of a loved one, they
Mm.
do have that sense of, oh, geez, I'm procrastinating. I'm putting things off, and I should. And they even might get it motivated or excited, generally for a short period before they
Mm.
drop back into their regular pattern. So, in your book, you've inspired, I think, really well people to, yeah, bring that to light and not use it as the only motivator, but it is a reality that we are facing, and that time and how many heartbeats we've got left is so important. So, if we were to sort of explore some of the concepts in your book, one of the early chapters, you talked about writing your own eulogy. So, can you speak into that chapter for our listeners?
Sure. I read Stephen Covey's book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, a long, long time ago, and I loved it. And one of his concepts, habit number two, is begin with the end in mind. So the idea is you imagine you're at a funeral and you look around and you see all these people that you know, generally that you know, and they're from different parts of your life. So there's some family members, there's some golf buddies, there's some people you work with, those sorts of things. And then the idea is you slowly realize that these people are here for your funeral and they're going to speak about you. So the idea from Covey's perspective is to identify the roles that you have in life. So your roles might be I'm a father, a husband, I'm a chiropractor, I'm a work colleague, I'm an inspirational leader for people wanting to live a better life, whatever it might be. And then you choose someone from each of those roles that you have, and you think, "What would I like them to say about me?" I don't get to control that, but what would I like them to say about me? And then if we have an honest conversation with ourselves, how likely are my kids likely to say, Tony was a great dad. Tony spent time with us. He invested energy with us." Or the people who attend your workshops or your clinic, how likely are they to say, "Oh, Tony, not only did he give me an adjustment, but I felt great being there. He has this great warmth and personality about him." And then it's about, what do I need to do in order to have that outcome? If I want my kids to speak fondly of me, I better invest some time and energy in loving those kids, or they're just not going to. So it's a nice way of goal setting, for want of a less formal term, but it kind of is. It said, these are the roles that I have in life. This is what I would like to achieve out of those roles. What am I doing about it? Am I on the right path? And if I'm not, there is still time for me to make a correction and have that outcome, that impression that I want to make on the world.
Mm. And you brought up there another chapter that you talked about is actually having that honest conversation and changing it from a difficult conversation to an honest conversation. I think that's a really powerful reframe. What would you say about that in terms of maybe planning for your passing, again, without giving it energy, but being honest about it?
Yeah. I think the best conversations are often the more difficult ones, the non-easy, go with the flow, she'll be right, mate. I think sometimes we need to have that little bit of a reality check. But I also think from a framing perspective, it's about staying curious and wondering what if and how about and can I and those sorts of things. So regardless of the what type of challenging conversation it is, if it's about talking to someone about, this is what I want for my funeral, this is how I want people to celebrate my life, or this is where our relationship's at and I don't feel great about it. It's staying curious around, how can we make this better? I suspect one of the challenges that we humans face is that quite often when we're in those tough conversations, we want to win the conversation. We want to be right, rather than focusing on what's the truth. What could we get out of this? Where are the possibilities? We get into this idea of it's a push and pull of either I win or you win. Well, we could create a conversation where the outcome is we both get to win, but winning means the truth, whatever the truth looks like. And there have been times in my life when I've been whacked with a truth stick and it hasn't been comfortable, but I think my life is better because I've had people say, "Anthony, you're just heading the wrong path here, mate. You need to really, I love you enough to tell you, you need to step back and have a look at yourself, because where you're going is not a great place." And hence the idea of having those challenging conversations, I just think they're really healthy for us from a place of love.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful, grounded place to be. So, prior to being in this business, some of your backstory I think is relevant here because you have done a number of different things. You're a personal trainer, you love being fit and looking after your body. And that doesn't mean that all your life's perfect, but in terms of living life and getting the thing and doing the stuff you love doing, that's one of my key themes here in Realms of Power. How important is those historical things you've had in doing the stuff you love doing relate to this whole topic now?
I think it all ties in really nicely. It's interesting when you're in that place that feels very comfortable, you almost feel as if everything I've ever done in my life has led to this moment. And I'm in that space now, which is a really nice space to sit in. But I was blessed, Tony. I was raised in a family where exercise was just something that we did. My dad was a phys ed teacher back in the day, so we always had activities going on. And it wasn't going to the gym and pumping iron. It was playing tennis, or it was surfing, or it was snow skiing, or it was just having fun, being physical. And I think there's a section of Australians now where they don't necessarily have that grounding as a child. So they may not even know what it feels like to feel energetic, to feel really fit and vibrant. And at 57 years young, I am well aware that if my back gets tight and sore and I need to go and visit you to have that looked after, I feel so much better when my body's in alignment, when my body's healthy, when I'm fueling it with good stuff, when I'm getting good quality sleep, when I'm not drowning myself in booze, when I'm not eating burgers and all that sort of thing. It just means that everything else gets easier. So, yes, I was a personal trainer back in the 90s before it was sexy, when my mother said for the next 18 years, "When are you gonna get a real job?" Bless her. But that physical health is a keystone habit, in my opinion, to everything else in life. So when I'm looking after myself physically and eating well, everything else in my world gets easier. Easier to focus, easier to go through tough times, easier to come up with creative ideas or business solutions, easy to be a good parent, to be a good partner, to be a good friend. So I've caught that bug of my life is better when I look after my physical well-being.
Mm. And I guess if we tie all of that in, the word that's popping up for me really strongly, the opposite of that is procrastination, which is what a
Yeah.
lot of people do. They put off organizing their funeral, they put off or doing their eulogy or their goals, they put off exercises, they put off going to the chiro. And what have you found is one of the big reasons of why they procrastinate? Not that they do, because everyone knows that they do, but why they would procrastinate when they know something would be better for them, when they hear your passion, you're lit up about all of that, but and or they go to the funeral, they know they should do more afterwards, and then they don't. What's underneath that? Do you feel from your perspective?
It might be something as simple as we humans love comfort and we avoid discomfort at every opportunity. And exercise, when you're not used to doing it, is a really difficult, horrid thing to do. Having conversations around death, if it's not something that's familiar to you, which is why I wrote the book, to try and bring it into that consciousness that this is what we should be thinking about. One of the many things we should be thinking about. But I think it's as simple as it's easier to watch Netflix or scroll or, do the easy stuff rather than every now and then doing the hard stuff. And the hard stuff's hard until it's not. And then your body gets used to it being easier. We get accustomed to it, and then we get to actually enjoy the hard stuff because, Tony, you know this already. The only time we get to be proud of ourselves is when we're getting out of our comfort zone and we're doing something that stretches us a little bit, that feels a little bit uncomfortable. But when you do that stuff, that's the times when you say, "Oh, I can do this. I am
Mhm.
capable. I can go for a walk. I can drink more good water rather than soft drinks. I can not have 17 beers, I can just have 1." All of that stuff, it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's exercise of its own sort. We get better at it when we do it. And if we allow ourselves to have a little pat on the back, "Good job, Anthony, well done," reinforces the behavior, we're more likely to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge thing. And we only have, again, that limited time. None of us really know how long that is. And if you're on
Mm,
your comfy mattress, you're really just going to be sitting there. And it's okay to have downtime as well. And exercise is just one of the realms you're talking about in the physical, because it could be you're just comfortable in the relationship and you haven't had that honest conversation, or you're comfortable
mm.
in your finances and you haven't pushed your business growth, or whatever it might be. So Yeah, I think that's a really powerful topic. So let's go in then to the grief process itself. So, being in and around that realm, you would see a lot of people processing grief differently. And if we're not talking about, the funeral, or we're putting it off, I love the way you wrote the book because it's very relatable, I think, for a lot of Australians, because we do, celebrate, or do funerals very differently than other countries. There's a blaseness about it. So can you talk into what you've noticed in the Australian culture around dealing with grief and death?
Sure. And yes, I see a lot of it, and no two are exactly the same, but there are often some patterns that we follow. I don't think we're particularly good at grief. I think it's often perceived as a weakness. If we, I didn't cry, I was stoic, I was strong. It's not what stoicism is, and it's not what strength is. It's I lost mum last year in August. We just scattered her ashes last weekend, and I'm there with my family. We're having a chat. We're at the beach that mum and my stepfather wanted their ashes to be dispersed at, and everything's good. And I got to the sand, and the tears started, and I got really emotional about it. I don't have that Aussie male connotation of the strong type. I'm the guy who cries first because I loved my mum. I still love my mum. I still love my stepfather. I'm so grateful for the world they created for me and for my siblings. So I don't have that hang up, but I have had it, and I've seen it in action, and I just think it's terribly unhealthy. And again, it's this, don't mention Anthony's mum because he might get emotional about it. No, I want to get emotional about it because if someone has made an impact on your life, as I've said, and they're not with us anymore, you miss them terribly. And I've told my kids, when I go, you are to cry your eyes out for 48 hours because I want you to miss me. I want to have made an impression on your life so much so that you miss me when I'm gone. But I also want you to then get on with your life. I want you to enjoy life and do your thing and contribute to the world and leave the planet in a better place than you found it. But we don't process guilt, the grief particularly well. I think we again avoid that uncomfortableness of I don't want to think about mum because I'll start crying or I'll get emotional about it. No, I think our emotions are there for a really good reason. And if we don't express them, they're going to manifest in another potentially negative way in our lives. So the other thing on that is other people won't want to upset you through speaking about the loss of someone close to you. So if we don't bring it up, it doesn't happen. And it's almost, if I could frame that as almost selfish, I don't want to speak to you, Tony, about someone you've lost because then you'll feel bad and I won't know how to cope with it. I won't know how to deal with it. So it makes me uncomfortable and I want to get out of this discomfort as much as possible. So I won't even bring it up in the first place. But the reality is when we're grieving, we're not necessarily looking for everyone to be a counselor. And I think counseling is really important for a lot of people when they're going through that. But if it's just our friends and family members, we really just want to be heard and be acknowledged that this is how I'm feeling right now. And that's okay. If I'm grieving, I'm not looking for someone to make me feel better because that's not what grieving wants. And it's not what I'm looking for at the time. If I'm conscious and open about it, I just want you to understand that I'm sad right now. I'm generally a fairly happy person, but of course there's the contrast. You're going to be sad about some things and that may give you a deeper appreciation for life, I think.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. What about the other side of grief? Someone that is, I'll say, stuck in grief. They
Yeah.
actually can't live their life because they're right on the other side of it, and they can't process, and they're a mess. They can't get out of their house. They can't move on with their life. How have you found that side of grief from your perspective?
Yeah, it's horrid for the person who's in the middle of it because they are genuinely stuck. They're not making it up. They're not taking things seriously. They're stuck. And I often see that with the older couples where one couple passes and the other one has spent 50 years or 60 years of their life with this person. And you think, my goodness, this is just Of course, everything's different because this has been a huge part of your life for so much of your life that it would be like losing a limb, or so I feel for the people who are in that situation, and I think professional support is crucial during that time. That if you are genuinely stuck in that spot, not just me and Mum, where I get teary sometimes when I think about it. I enjoy that. That doesn't hold me back in life, but it's
Yeah.
getting in the way of your life and you living your life. Then that's where a good professional can be so valuable, just spending some time with you, helping you get through that, and letting you know that it's okay to be where you're at, and here are some things you may integrate into your life. And this is not my field of expertise, but I've met some terrific people who deal with trauma and grief, and help people get through that. And I think what the work they do is invaluable. Good on them.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. And, with let's go to the funerals themselves. And this is where I think one of the words that comes in, which you're sort of talking about a bit, is people's judgment around what is right in a service. And they get judgy, and that's where the uncomfortable can come in. And
Mm.
how do you, as in the role you are in the business, sort of deal with different people's judgment?
That's a great question. I'm not going to say I ignore it, but my role is to, when I'm in that celebrant role, is to look after the person who's behind me in the coffin, and to look after the family in the front row. And if I do those two things, the guests pretty much take care of themselves. So during the conversation with the family when we're preparing for the service, it's very much about, what do you guys want this to look like? What's the energy that you want to bring? Are we here to mourn the loss? Are we here to celebrate the life? Are we going to do a little bit from column left and column right? Because you can 100% grieve the loss of somebody and celebrate their life at the same time. Now, not everyone wants a celebration of life. I know it's kind of the buzzword, but some people are genuinely pissed off that someone's been taken from them, and they're not happy about it, and they don't want that, and that's okay. My job is to deliver the service that they're looking for, to help them through that stage that they're in. So if it's a celebration of life, I will stand up the front and smile at the audience while the person standing next to me delivering the eulogy is covered in mucus and tears, and I'll wait for them to mop themselves up and take a breath and sip some water and get on with the eulogy. Or if it's a more solemn occasion, then that's what I try and provide for people. So anyone's judgment around that, to quote Dr. Seuss, those who mind don't matter, those who matter don't mind. I'm there for the immediate family. And generally speaking, when people come to a farewell service, their focus is on that person who's no longer with us. There's always the potential of some conflict along the way. So if there's been some broken relationships and that sort of thing, that can come out. But generally speaking, we really want to keep our eye on, this is to honor that person's life. And whatever quibbles you and I have, we just need to put that aside for the moment and do the right thing by this person. And then we can argue in the weeks or months or years to come if that's what needs to happen. But yeah, I guess I'm a little bit of a peacekeeper. There are times when people will hop up to speak, and what they're speaking about might go in a less than ideal direction. And I tell the person who's organising the service with me that if that happens, I look at you and you either give me a smile and nod, that means it's okay, or you give me the side twitch, and that means get them off. And I very politely thank them for their time and let them know we need to move on. And I try and do that as respectfully as possible. But a farewell service is not a place to air your grief or your resentment or whatever it might be. You can do that at a later date. This is about the guest of honor.
Of course, yeah. That respect word is so important, which I think, in Australia probably could be done better at times.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Yeah, including like I love humor, I love fun, but awkward humor and fun at a funeral, that can be pretty hard, and it can be remembered long term from the, immediate family. So that has to be managed, I think, and it sounds like you do that really well.
I do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the book, I'll just come back to one other thing you mentioned there. You used a quote, and I remember reading, I think one of the chapters where you used a whole bunch of different quotes from different movies or themes or books and different referencing books. I think that's great. So this is your first book, is that correct? A self-published author?
It's actually my second book as a self-published author. I'm trying to get there it is, the focus somewhat right. I wrote a
Hmm.
book. I was heavily involved in the fitness industry, training personal trainers. So I wrote a book called, thank you, Be Your Own Personal Trainer, which was just to get people off the couch and doing something that they could do. And that was a really good and challenging process for me to go through. The chapter you're talking about is where it's a little bit of a Napoleon Hill,
Mm.
uh, and I think he was one of the people I referenced, but it's very much about when I ask you who you are, what goes on in your mind. Pretty simple for you to say, I'm Tony Rudd, the chiropractor, but your Tony Rudd has so many other aspects to it. And the way you describe yourself deeply reflects how you feel about yourself and where you see yourself in your status in this world. So if someone says, Anthony Spark, who are you? Oh, I'm a 57-year-old old bloke who's been divorced once and his kids live interstate. That's a sad story. That's not going to inspire me to any greatness. But Anthony, if I'm Anthony, the loving father, it's my youngest son's 26th birthday today, who I've spoken to, of course, already, and I'm very well connected to my siblings and my extended family, in spite of the fact that they're all, well, most of them are in Victoria, but I still have this wonderful relationship. And if I'm Anthony, who loves the group of people he goes ocean swimming with, or my running group, or those people, all of a sudden that's a little more aspirational. So the way we talk about ourselves in our own minds, I think, is really important. And Carl Jung says that if when the world asks you who you are, you'd better have a good answer, or the world will tell you who you are. So
Mm.
rather than being told who I am, people laugh at me when I refer to myself as an athlete, because I'm hardly an athlete, but I'm someone who, if my self-image is that one of my roles in life is that of an athlete, then I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm more likely to eat well. Whereas if I'm a bit of a couch potato, I'm more likely to sit on the couch and eat chips and watch telly and do not much. So I think that what I call, for me, I call it my rant. So it's that thing about who are you? Well, I'm Anthony Spark. I'm loving father to Andrea. I'm the adoring father, loving partner to Andrea, adoring parent to three children and one stepchild. I'm a connected member of my family. I'm a passionate Toastmaster. I'm a very keen ocean swimmer. I have a beautiful group of people I run. That's more aspirational. That's more likely to get me off the couch and doing things, rather than I'm just a slob. I'm a 57-year-old bloke, not get any younger.
Yeah, look, and people self-talk, but they sometimes even say that, like, "Am I adjusting table?" I hear that all the time. So that frame is really powerful, mate. And that's, I guess, the subheading of your book, which really is like where we talk about death, so we can focus on our life, and it's living a good life. And I think that's brilliant. Look, I read in the book there's a lot of people giving you great testimonials. You're up here on the Sunshine Coast, as you mentioned at the start, so we'll put that in the show
Yeah.
notes if you're are looking for the services of Anthony. I'd highly recommend him. And your book is self-published. So is there anywhere people can actually get the book, or do they have to contact you?
The website sunshinecoastfunerals.com.au has a very humble tab called Buy My Book. You can go there. You can also, to be honest, you can go to the website and download the book, the PDF, for free.
Yeah,
So some
wow.
people prefer to have I like to have the tangible book in my hand. Some people are happy reading a PDF, and that's fine. It's just there because it's information that I want to share. I didn't
Yeah.
think I was going to become an overnight millionaire by writing a book, but I think the information is interesting for some people, and I hope that more and more people read it and get something out of it.
Yeah, well, I personally couldn't recommend it highly enough. I think it's written in a beautiful way for Australians to very easily read and absorb, and with some powerful messaging in that. So, mate, I really acknowledge you for doing that. It's great
Yeah,
work.
thank
So,
you. That's
yes.
generous of you. I appreciate it.
Oh, mate, it's a pleasure. Mate, is there any we'll wrap up this episode, but is there any final wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners in the realms of power, how they could turn their power on?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with who are you hanging out with. And once upon a time, that was your social group, but now it's what are you doing online? What websites or people do you follow? What influences are you attracted to? Because I think that makes an incredible difference to your self perception and what you're going to do. I wouldn't go swimming in the ocean as often as I do if it wasn't for the group of people that I hang out with, because I know they're going. And we have a little Facebook group, and we let each other know I'm going to turn up, I'm not going to turn up, I've got this on, that sort of thing. So I think identifying who you're hanging out with, spending time with, giving your energy to, and in turn receiving that energy back from you, I think that's really important. So choose how you spend your time and energy, I think, very carefully, and make sure that that is the best outcome for you. It's going to be different for all of us, of course, but being aware of these people aren't my people is really important. These are the people that I'd like to be a part of. I'm going to go and hang out with those people.
Mate, that is a brilliant message, especially the add-on to might be online. It might be like, what are you feeding yourself? What are you hanging around with? And who are your influences? I love that. All right, mate. Well, look, thank you so much, Anthony, for your time today to come on the show. Really appreciate it. And it's a brilliant message you're sharing. So keep doing the great work you're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, mate. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. And for our listeners, thanks again so much for tuning in. You guys are legends. Have an awesome day. See ya.